Alright, YouTube, it's time for Occult Literature number 71, Phallism, Crux Ansata. Very, very interesting work. It's from the same publishing firm that released Cultus Arborum, and by the way, happy times. Ophiolatreia is already done. Last night I spent like 5 hours non-stop editing, and then today I finished it off. So it's actually ready in only a handful of days, actually. I'm very happy about that because people have been waiting for it. Phallism, though, is also an invaluable work, and link is always in the description to where you can purchase your edition of this work, my edition of this work, your copy of this work off of Amazon. Second link to my books blog. There's other stuff available. Cultus Arborum, obviously, is one of them. Ophiolatreia will be. And I discovered a whole bunch of other texts from the same firm that I didn't know existed, so I'm going to be busy for a little while, let's just say, probably through the end of the year. Phallism is in the sense of this text, generally speaking, is the concept that penis worship, and also vagina worship, if you read this, they're really counterparts, especially within sort of the Yoni tradition, that it's prevalent in most spiritual forms throughout the world. Now, like Cultus Arborum notices that the imagery of the tree or the maypole and things like that are all encompassing. This fixates upon specifically the phallus and its all-encompassing nature, just as Ophiolatreia does serpent, the motif of sort of serpent worship. And in all three cases, these works do a pretty compelling job of arguing that, yeah, it's basically everywhere, it's almost inescapable, even in so-called civilized society. Now, this text was written at the height of the British Empire, in the British Empire. Therefore, naturally, it focuses a lot on India and upon other sort of tribes contacted in the British Empire at its height, in their sort of imperial domains. And it does, of course, regard, most of the world as being a little bit more primitive, maybe kind of civilized. It was funny, in Ophiolatreia it uses the term semi-civilized for certain, like the Mesoamericans, as opposed to the outright, savages in Africa, I suppose they thought at the time. But Phallism here is discussed within the context of ancient Greece and more modern Greece, really. Rome, Egypt, certainly, the Nile key as far as sort of the penile emblem of the Nile cross, the Egyptian cross, the life key, the Ankh, that's certainly mentioned there as well. And basically, then it goes into Mesoamerican lore. Not as much, though. This is more, Ophiolatreia goes a lot into sort of, the Mesoamerican tribes, especially within Mexico. This one focuses less on Hinduism than Cultus Arborum did, but it still covers it in depth because, as it said within the text, even the pillars on some of these temples essentially have been built into giant phalluses. There were practices all over the world, of course, in which people would sort of give worship or adoration to the lingam within India. It's still practiced to this day, and the linga is quite literally a penis. It's, I believe, Vishnu's dick, actually. Or was it Shiva's? One of these characters loses his penis, and it sort of gets resurrected as a collection of stones, and these are put into the yoni. They're put into these little sort of little vaginas, almost, you could call them, and they're given sort of sacrificial status, really, within Hinduism. It's not really a primitive thing, because this imagery, it's literally all over the ancient world. You're going to find it everywhere. It's in hieroglyphs in Egypt. It's certainly anywhere where pillars are being built, there's a tendency for some phallic symbolism to be there. Serpents and phalluses are often intertwined. Asclepius, that sort of thing. Essentially, this work, though, contributes one major thing to the core of academic literature on the subject that no other work appears to have been willing to talk about at the time until very, very recently. We're talking the last 50 years or so. We're talking certainly post-JFK era for the most part. And that is that even the Christian cross, not necessarily with Jesus hanging on it, but the Christian cross, the cross itself, is not only a pagan symbol, which, Christians even today will deny, but was phallic. It's really a dick and balls that they're worshipping, and that it was used by pagans. It was used in Scandinavia as a symbol. It was used among sort of the British people. It was used in Germania at the time, the Gallic, sort of Visigothic regions. It was used in Asia. It's used in Hindu tradition, along with the swastika, of course, you'll realize. And that phallism really at the end of the day is one of the most common things within ancient and then modern spirituality, specifically because early man, and I happen to agree with this general idea, witnessed generation, couldn't fully explain it in scientific terms and began sort of worshipping this symbol, much like the serpent, the tree, some of these other sort of major symbols that he would have become familiar with, and their purpose in a medicinal sense, in the sense of reproduction, in the sense of certainly making war or violence against one's enemies, caring for, death would be another symbol. These are sort of all-encompassing important symbols that literally informed all of mankind. That's why the diaspora of man, despite in some cases having no apparent contact for lengthy periods, shows the same general fixation with certain types of symbolism, phallism being one amongst them, Ophiolatreia being another, certainly Cultus Arborum being a third. And so this work comes highly recommended. If you like Cultus Arborum, if you like the topic, you'll like Phallism. These were all compiled together into a much longer work at a later date. I'm releasing them separately as the publishing firm originally did. Ophiolatreia will be available in a couple days. That's one that particularly several people have already spoken of and said, oh, well, when is it going to be ready? I'm waiting for it. So if you're into this general type of lore, all of these works released by the same firm are equally indisposable to either anyone who's into the academic history of religion and spirituality. If you're an occultist, it's going to give you a great list of secondary sources as well, for which perhaps for the occultist it's most valuable. It speaks of all this and more. It goes through, a dozen different cultures through several millennia of human time. Very, very in-depth. Highly recommended. It's 112 pages long, so it's a substantial enough work on the subject, generally speaking. Again, if you want a copy of this, you can purchase my edition on Amazon, link in the description. Second link to my books blog. That's about all. Peace out.